Hi everybody, welcome to Dynamo Sword Channel. I'm David, and today on Dynamo Sword Channel I will be reviewing the Kult of Athena 13th Century Longsword. And if you're not aware of these swords, they are apparently exclusively Chinese manufactured medieval swords sold by the vendor Kult of Athena. A few highlights to these swords are their blades, made of 1060 high carbon steel, the peened hilt construction, and the wood core scabbards. For the price, they seem pretty impressive. So compared to other budget sub $300 swords like Windlass, Hanwei, and even Balor Arms, how do they hold up? Well, stay tuned and we'll find out. This 13th century longsword is what would have been described as a Type 13A in the oakshot typology. A Type 13A is a subtype of the 13 blade type. What defines the Type 13 is a broad lanicular blade with near parallel edges ending in a more spatulate tip. These swords were unique as they all feature grips of two-handed or hand-and-a-half length. This type appears to have been developed in the 13th century and seems to have originated in Germany, but was used all throughout of Europe and was even featured use in the Crusades. The subtype 13A is longer than the standard Type 13, classifying this subtype as a longsword, or more specifically, a war sword. The 13A was developed as a sword to be used with two hands, allowing more leverage and reach to be given to the wielder. The Type 13A blade profile was broad and fuller, allowing deadly shearing cuts to be made. It closely resembles its cousin, the Type 12A, but lacks the more tapering profile and has a broader cross-section at the tip to benefit its cutting efficiency. This sword is a good representation of a typical Type 13A war sword of the 13th to 14th centuries, featuring the simpler cruciform hilt popular at the time. The grip is of adequate length for the type, and the blade size and proportions match the type as well. The polish of the blade and guard and pommel is mirror, and the blade is properly peened to the tang. Next, we'll take a look at the overall statistics of the sword. The overall length is a massive 44 3/4 inches. It has a weight of 3 1/4 pounds with a point of balance right at 7.5 inches from the hilt. The center of percussion is about 23.5 inches from the guard, and again, this sword would classify as a war sword or long sword of the 13th, 14th century. The blade's total length is 36 inches. It has a base blade width of 2.5 inches, and due to the parallel profile, that goes all the way up to the spatulate tip. So it's a full 2.5 inches down the entire blade length. The material is a 1060 high carbon steel, and it features a mirror polish. Now the cross section is unfortunately an untrue to the type diamond cross section, but it does have the more traditional fuller, which goes down to about 3/4 of the blade length. Again, this blade would classify as an oakshot Type 13A in the oakshot typology. Now, the guard length is 7 5/8 of an inch, and the quilling dimensions are 3/8 of an inch, and those taper down to about 1/2 an inch in this octagonal section. The material is a stainless steel with mirror polish, and the style of guard would be an oakshot Type 2. The handle's total length is 7 inches. It has a circumference of 3 3/8 at the top, which tapers down to 3 inches at the pommel. The handle material is a hard wood, and the grip material originally was black leather with cord on the body, and I upgraded that to a darkened deerskin, tan deerskin with risers. Now, the pommel's length is 1 5/8 of an inch. The pommel circumference is 4 1/4 inches, and the material, like the guard, is a stainless steel with mirror polish. The hilt construction is peened, and the pommel type would be what is known as an oak shot type J1 pommel. This sword comes with a wood core scabbard. The scabbard is a little overbuilt and heavy, but it fits the blade moderately snug at the throat where it holds without sliding down. Unfortunately, if you hold it upside down, it slides. The blade also rattles in the scabbard, which is an unfortunate thing, but it does feature a pretty decent leather overwrap, which is stitched at the side. It also includes a sword belt not seen here, and as well as this suspension system to carry the blade. The quality of the belt in the suspension system is actually rather poor, made of cheap leather, poorly stitched, and the buckles are kind of flimsy and cheap. But the scabbard does have a cast metal throat and chape. Overall, the scabbard fits moderately well, and it is a nice addition to house the blade, but the fit and finish is actually rather poor, and the leather has an unfortunate bunching at the chape and at the throat, as can be seen here. In conclusion, for the price, this sword is a moderately decent representation of a 13th century war sword of the 13A type. It is a little heavy and overbuilt, and there was a major issue I found when inspecting the blade. The biggest fault was the handle and grip. The grip was poorly done, and when I unwrapped it, I noticed actually the grip was short and didn't sit flush to the pommel and the tang. This was an obvious major issue with the sword, but I personally was able to remedy it with some wood filler and putty. This is an unfortunate error, and one that I would say would cause serious potential risk to a user. Sadly, these issues are quite common with the budget Chinese-made European sword reproductions. It definitely benefit these manufacturers to give more attention to detail and not just try to overbuild these swords to promote strength and durability. A misconception I think Chinese manufacturers have regarding European swords and European sword enthusiasts is that we actually prefer our swords to be, kind of big, heavy cutters, like what are normally portrayed in film and fantasy. I feel they don't understand the focus we have on historical accuracy and the importance of blade typology when reproducing a historical original. Of course, though, sacrifices must be made in the budget price range, but if the other manufacturers in this price range, such as Windlass, Hanwei, and Balor Arms can do it, I don't see why other Longquan manufacturers or forges can't either. Regarding the defects, I do hope mine was simply a quality control miss, but you never know, and therefore I always recommend you do a full inspection of your swords before any cutting or other practical use is done. Overall, for the price, it is a decent sword, and if the manufacturer can get better grasp on weight, distal taper, and of course proper cross section and the general fit and finish, like with the arrow with the handle, I think they would honestly offer a really nice product. Regarding the manufacturer, there are quite a few of these Chinese-made medieval swords for sale at Kult of Athena. None of them have any actual manufacturer or brand name tagged to them, but they all feature a similar build and look that make me believe they are, in fact, all made by the same manufacturer or at least in the same Chinese forge. Doing some research, these swords have an actual striking resemblance to, for example, the European line of Ronin Katana, which is also made in Longquan. And even further research showed that these swords are in fact sold in Europe and other vendor sites under the brand name Kawashima. But also, I've heard rumors that they are made by one of two Chinese katana manufacturers, Musashi or Ryujin. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review of the Kult of Athena 13th Century Longsword. Be sure to like and subscribe, as well as look forward to the cutting review with follow-up discussion releasing soon. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.